We are going to highlight the next four candidates: Ms. Cordell Cleare, Mr. Mario Rosser, Mr. Keith Taylor, and Ms. Athena Moore. So we're going to start off with Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. Marcus, what was the last book you read?
It's a book called The Culture of Fear by I forgot it. Barry Glassett. Actually,
Okay.
he's a professor out of
Okay.
Washington University.
Okay. The next question goes to Miss Athena Moore. How many colleges are there in Harlem?
Wow, I can name them. I'm not sure that I give the number, but I definitely know
Let's
City
start
College.
it. One,
Yep, Toro College,
two,
CUNY School of Public Health.
three.
Definitely the other that I can think of is Hunter, but Hunter is East Harlem, but that's the other one.
Okay, that's your answer. Four. Okay. Thank you. Miss Cleare. Name your favorite restaurant above 130th Street.
Party Bistro.
Okay.
That was too fast.
That was too fast. And Mr.
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
when did you become a Harlem voter and how long have you been one?
I became a Harlem voter when I'd say 2000, around 2002, when I actually bought a home here.
Mhm.
But what was the second part of it? Second part of the question?
Well, I guess it's how long have you been one? So since then?
The entire time I've lived in Harlem.
I got it. Okay. All right. So this is the lightning round questions, everybody. Lightning round around Harlem history and landscape. Okay. All right. Miss Cleare. What's ULURP?
It is the process that city-owned property goes through in the city council in order to get the project approved.
I was trying to see that was an easy one for all of y'all. I was trying to get questions because y'all all know that. Y'all all been working. So very good. Very good. Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Who was the school building on 135th Street in Edgecombe and St. Nick named after?
Percy Sutton, former Manhattan Borough President of the City of New York, also owner of Inner City Broadcasting System, one of the Harlem.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Marcus.
Yes.
Who appoints the community board and how many members sit on it?
That's appointed by the borough president. And if I'm not mistaken, the city council gets, I think, maybe one or two people. What you figure? President, vice president, secretary, treasurer. If I'm not mistaken, maybe 4 or 5 that sits on that committee board.
Okay.
That has a main say.
Mhm.
The rest is just, I believe, members.
So how many members sit on the board?
I've been at the meetings. Maybe 12.
Okay. That's your answer. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Rosser. How you doing? You good? Who was Lenox Avenue named after, Mr. Rosser?
Who is Lenox Avenue named after? You know what? I actually don't know the answer to that question. But I know who was named for after.
I asked you the question. You can say whatever answer you like to give.
So.
Okay. All right. And Miss Moore, can you tell me how many single parent households led by women are there in Harlem?
Wow, I am a single parent. I have not looked at the stat lately, but I know that women make up the majority of women led households in this district.
Okay, all right. Again, the questions and views are not mine. So please, these are parts of the questions, but it's all good. You did well. You all did well. Um, the first question for you is around economic development. I'm going to start with Mr. Rosser. As a city council member, what can you do to help Harlem small businesses thrive through COVID and beyond?
Well, again, for everyone who
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Clearly, this was blocked out. The question is not economic development. I apologize, everybody. The
okay.
question, I'll start over again. The question is around health, mental health, and public health. Okay. So, Mr. Rosser, what can the city council do to reduce the stigma around mental health issues? And what can you do as a community leader?
Well, number one, I think that what we need to do immediately is invest in more compassionate outreach in terms of dollars from the Department of Homeless and Houseless Services to people who are living on 125th Street to get them off the street, get them into supportive housing, and get the mental health services that they need. I think we need to make sure that we prioritize that in the budget. And so for everyone who I don't know who might be on, I thought I was scheduled to come on at 11:15, so that's why I just showed up. Um, uh, but it's great to be here with you all. My name is Mario Rosser, and I'm running for city council, number one, to make sure we keep Harlemites in Harlem, to invest in our young people and get them things to do, and make sure we keep this neighborhood safe and respectful for everyone. So that's what I'm all about, and I'm looking forward to the next 45 minutes of engaging with you all.
Okay. And thank you for that, Mr. Ross. So we did not do introduction email things, so you didn't miss that much.
Okay.
The next candidate to answer the question is, what can the city council do to reduce the stigma around mental health issues? And what can you do as a community leader? Mr. Marcus.
Well, we actually coalition of leaders within the community right now. We're dealing with the issue with mental health as well as homelessness. What happens is DHS itself has a budget where they outsource the organizations who are actually not doing the work. So there needs to be oversight of some of this funding that's being outsourced. This way, accountability is held because the people that needs the services are not getting it. And as you see, the city has a lot of money, and it's just not appropriate the way it should be. It appears as if it's like a pay for play with some of these organizations, as we see in the news with a lot of these shelters. So it would be, as a lawmaker, making sure that the oversight of the funding and seeing where this money is going to make sure that it gets diverted to the right services.
Thank you. Ms. Claire, you have 2 minutes. What can the city council do to reduce the stigma around mental health issues? And what can you do as a community leader?
I think we should make it a part of our schooling and our curriculum as we try to put more counselors and social workers in schools. At an early age, we need to start figuring things out, helping people figure things out, and also making people know that this is not something to be ashamed of. It's another health issue when we talk about mental health. As a leader myself, I would constantly be touting the message, making it comfortable for people, holding more seminars, educating people on mental health and the issues around mental health, that this is just another health problem. This is not something that people need to be afraid of or ashamed of. We need to get treatment, whether that's medication, counseling, therapy, whatever it is, we have to make sure that we get it to people and talk about it more. I find that we don't talk about things, mental health, especially in our community and in our families. That's something that needs to be talked about more so that people can feel freer and understand coming through COVID, coming through George Floyd and all the things that Black people experience. Mental health is an issue for many of us, and everybody could benefit from it.
Thank you. Ms. Moore,
Yes, thank you. So mental health is near and dear to my heart. My mom was mentally ill. I've been a caregiver my entire life. I definitely will be a continued advocate for more clinical services and supportive services, not only for individuals, but for families. I served as the Associate Executive Director of the National Association for Social Workers, where we continue to advocate for increasing the numbers, not only in schools, but in communities. Many of the providers do not reflect us. We need cultural competent providers. We need those who have lived experiences. This community has dealt with a lot of trauma, but we also know that depression, suicides, and domestic violence is on the rise. And so I will continue to work as a city council member to make sure that the budget prioritizes funding in those areas, and to make sure that we are dealing with not only the counseling and individual health services, but also the structures and conditions that lead to mental health in our community. So we must address poverty. You know, we must address economic security. In my own family, it was the root cause of my mother's breakdown, and it was the root cause of my father's substance abuse. And because of that, it deteriorated the family. And so I will continue to make sure that we prioritize services that are intersectional, that correlate to mental health illness in our community.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say we have one of our committee members from Harlem Women Strong that if you speak beyond the 2 minutes, they will come on the line and say time. So just be mindful of that. And the last candidate to answer the question is Mr. Taylor. Do I need to repeat it again, or are you okay?
No. One of the things that I think we need to do is look at effective small-scale addiction rehabilitation and mental health and homeless services. Make sure that, you know, the city council's role of managing the budget, that we get the services that get the best outcomes and best results. And of course, they have to be culturally competent. And instead of having the large scale type of chemical opioid treatment facilities, which have oversaturated our community, we need, like I said, the effective small scale rehabilitation models that are proven to evidence-based to get the best outcomes for to deal with the trauma that our community is absolutely suffering from, not just from COVID, but long-term systemic issues. Okay, so what I would do in city council is I'd make sure that the harm reduction facilities are appropriately spread out in the city instead of being concentrated in East and Central Harlem because of the subsequent problems that we have to deal with in terms of criminal activities around drugs and other things. And it makes it very difficult for our communities to rebound when we're dealing with this issue of no fault of our own.
Thank you so much. The next question, and I'm going to start with Ms. Cleare, is around education. We have a literacy crisis. Less than a third of third graders are reading at grade level and never catching up. This is rooted in poor teacher training to teach reading, costing the taxpayers for professional development and student remediation. What can the City Council do to promote better teacher preparation? You have 2 minutes.
Yasmin, I'm sorry. I missed a portion of the question, and I'm really sorry. Can I ask you to repeat
Sure,
that?
not a problem. Can you hear me clearly right now before I begin?
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We have a literacy crisis. Less than a third of third graders are reading at grade level and never catching up. This is rooted in poor teacher training to teach reading, costing the taxpayers for professional development and student remediation. What can the City Council do to promote better teacher preparation?
Yeah, I think that we need to train all teachers in reading, since reading is such a basic part of learning, period. So your science teacher, your math teacher, the reading that you are exercising your reading skills in those classes, we need to make sure that we are teaching all of our children, and we need to have monitors that make sure that our children are getting it. And we also have to make sure that our children are prepared and their classrooms and their schools are prepared. You know, recently we
Mhm.
saw what happened with a lot of our children are not already using remote devices. There are students that have long been using that and fared better during this process. We have to get the best practices, get the best tools, get the best learning tools, and give them to our students and our teachers immediately, right away.
Okay, thank you so
Can you hear
much.
me?
I
Okay.
can, you cut off just a little bit. I just want to make sure, but we heard you, but I just want you to know that. But the last sentence was pretty, we could still hear it, but it was a little, you know, but we heard you. We heard you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, okay. I'm going to go to Mr. Marcus, the same question. Do I need to repeat it?
Yeah, you can repeat it.
Okay, we have a literacy crisis. Less than a third of third graders are reading at grade level and never catching up. And this is rooted in poor teacher training to teach reading, costing taxpayers for professional development and student remediation. What can the City Council do to promote better teacher preparation? Mr. Marcus, you have 2 minutes.
I would assume that this is limited to the scope of high-risk communities. When they speak about third grade not reading at the level. And if that's the case, I would say that we have to do more better with desegregating the schools. Some of the problems that we have is that the tier system within the teachers union, they send uh, their low qualified teachers into our communities that really are not how can I say it, acclimated with the environment that they're actually serving. They can't relate to the children, nor are they focused on trying to provide a easier method in teaching, right?
Mhm.
They don't have the money, they don't have the funding. A lot of them are paying for some of these tools that they need to teach out of their own pockets. That creates a problem. Um, Desegregating the schools, that way there's an equal education across the board throughout the city. You would be able to see more of the tax dollars and the pay, because qualified teachers would go into all communities. And that's what we would literally be looking at. Why isn't there well-prepared teachers within high-risk communities? We know here in District 5 in Harlem, it's been failing since 1986, and no one has batted an eye about it. You know,
Okay,
we have to focus on that and literally come up with the necessary resolutions legislative wise.
okay, thank you so much. Mr. Rosser, do I need to ask the question again, or can you take it?
Nope, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Number one, we need to make sure that we are getting our teachers the resources that they need to be able to do the job. When I talk to teachers and principals here in the neighborhood at neighborhood schools, they're coming out of pocket to pay for pencils and equipment for their own kids. Meanwhile, we're diverting funds all across the city, and we're not getting our schools in the neighborhood the resources they need. We're not paying teachers what they deserve. And so, as it relates to specifically literacy, I don't purport to be an expert in exactly what we need to do from a pedagogical implementation perspective, but I know on this line we have people who are within this own group. We have people here in Harlem in our community who've been working on this issue. Debbie Myers has been working on dyslexia and literacy for years. And so we need to use the resources in Harlem and make sure we have a city council office that's answering the phone, that's bringing in the resources that exist within this beautiful, intelligent community and get our kids what they need. That's what I think we need to do. And we need to make sure the budget and the funding reflects the priority that we're placing on the public schools within our neighborhood. And that's what I support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, literacy is a determinant of economic security, health, and mental health and democracy. And we see, individuals who are illiterate in our homeless population, in our prisons, and functioning as adults. And so one of the things that we have to do to address the literary crisis is by ensuring that teaching colleges prepare K-3 and special education teachers in evidence-based reading instruction, specifically on the science of reading or structured literacy, and making sure that the principals have some oversight on how they spend their budgets to provide instruction around reading that is evidence-based and gets the results that our young people need. Certainly, as city council member, I'd strengthen the role of CECs and provide training for CEC members to have true oversight over school-based budgets in cooperation with the executive superintendents and superintendents. So, really arming our teachers with the knowledge and skills that they need to have to provide robust training to our children in the science of reading is key to this thing breaking.
Thank you.
Cycle. Okay.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you. So first of all, earlier this year, the mayor proposed a $92 billion budget focused for this city, and education was about a third of it, about 30% of the budget. As a city council member, I would continue to make sure that literacy and education is prioritized in the budget. I'm a first generation college student. My grandmother did not have a high school degree, but somehow she was able to impart to me the importance of education. So education starts at home first, and then it has to be supported with professional development of our teachers. Teachers are needing relief right now. They're needing support. They're needing resources for their classrooms. We have to get that to them. I would invest in technology. We know COVID has definitely create a huge gap in terms of our kids being able to access the education and literacy support that they need. So I would continue to focus on those who are differently abled in terms of learning. We need to make sure that our IEPs are being supported. We need to make sure that technology, whether it's laptops and other devices, are accessible to people in their homes. But also we need to make sure that the capital budgets are being allocated for our schools so that they have the needed repairs that make going into the schools a quality education environment for our students. And then programmatically making sure the curriculum also reflects the needs of the community. So we need Afrocentric and Latinx-centric curricula, but we also need curricula that goes beyond your basic educational needs.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's stay with you on the last question. And this is around COVID. You have 2 minutes to answer. During the COVID crisis, much attention was rightly paid to residents who lost their income over the past year, but small landlords were bundled in with the big landlords. Small landlords have had challenges making mortgage payments and repairs. Do you have ideas on how the city council can support small landlords?
Yes. So first of all, I want to say that my journey has been both as a renter as well as an owner. And so I have a unique position in my understanding of the impact that COVID has had on us. I would continue to support our residents at both levels. I do believe that landlords have been struggling because they've not been able to get the rent and the mortgages from their tenants and residents and homeowners. And I would continue to support them and making sure that they have, supports in order to get that income to them. But I also know that rent relief has been a major part of the work that I've done daily during this pandemic, trying to make sure that residents are able to, ensure that their rents are being paid. There's a moratorium that's currently in place that is supposed to end by May 1st. And this is something that we anticipate will be a continuing issue because it's going to impact so many who will not necessarily be able to still pay their rent. And we're trying to ask for continued moratorium. We're asking for extended rent freeze. And so I would continue to support both landlords as well as renters, because they're both impacted during this time. And economic recovery is a center point of my plan.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Taylor, same question. Do you have ideas on how the city council can support small landlords?
Yes, absolutely. Small landlords provide not just residential apartments and such for individuals living in New York City, but also provide commercial space. And we can, I think, as city council, find ways to adequately support commercial space that is not currently being utilized. We see all the storefronts that are closed up. A lot of those represent small landlords that are suffering economically, as well as from lack of payment from the individuals that are renting apartments from them. And so I believe that there has to be support, not just from city council, but also from state and federal efforts. And I know that this has been addressed in the current federal budget that has been just approved. But the important thing to understand is with any program, it has to be effective. It has to be evidence-based, that it is not being wasteful in how it is utilized. But right now, we need help from the federal level, given the complexity of the issues and you know the impact, not just now, but in the future. If you'll notice that the Manhattan rents are going down significantly as a result of a number of things, you know, COVID being preeminent among them. But that affects small business. Okay, absolutely.
Thank you. Again, we're going to have Mr. Rosser. The question ending, do you have ideas on how the city council can support small businesses?
All right. And small business and small landlords, to be clear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
You have ideas on how the city council can support? I'm juggling a lot of different things.
You had like 4 forums today. They need to give you a break.
Well, it's all right. It's okay. I'm going to eat some fish later. But do you have ideas on how the city council can support small landlords? My bad.
Yes. Yes. I believe that we cannot lump small landlords in with the landlords in large mega management companies that are displacing our people from Harlem. They are not the same. And in fact, a lot of people I talk to inform what I support are Black folks here in Harlem who own 4 or 5 unit buildings, and those are not the same. And so they've been suffering too. And I think what we need to do through this office in this neighborhood, we need a city council member who is going to work to organize both tenants and small landlords together, because we can provide support to both. They're not mutually exclusive. Specifically, what we can do in terms of policy on the city level, I think that it is appropriate to provide some type of lien relief to small landlords and tax relief. I would support things of that nature. But I think that there are other things that are out there that are going to be tools that could be effective. And at the end of the day, this is a national issue. We've seen some action taken in this state budget. We've seen action taken in the federal budget. But at the end of the day, I think it starts with the city council member who's willing to say, everyone's not the same. And a lot of the Black wealth that we do have in Harlem is Black folks who own a building that their family has. And I think we cannot lump that in and shoot ourselves in the foot, getting caught up in a movement that's not nuanced enough.
Thank you. Mr. Marcus?
Well, let's look at the actual problem, what's going on, because a lot of people that own small unit housing, been affected by the high taxes that New York City, and when I say New York City, the additional taxes, property tax that New York City adds on to, some of these people's, the hardship. We would have to look at lowering the property taxes because, again, raising the property taxes has an effect not just on landlords, but the cost of living. Rents get raised, cost of living gets raised. As you see within some of the big developers, they end up formulating how to become a silent partner in the small businesses. So small business have to try to work on having their rent paid as well as their profits. We have to be mindful as leaders that we cannot get greedy with taxes because everything is raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes. But when we have issues like this, it's the people that suffer. I would propose as a lawmaker, right, our counterparts in Albany to actually have some form of relief for these small property owners. Because again, if the people can't work, they can't get paid, and they can't get paid, the rent can't get paid, and the property taxes can't get paid for the rents that they're looking forward to. So I would blame it more on the state because the state has to ask for more money, but more, again, the property taxes and the increase of property taxes that the city itself imposes needs to be looked at and cut because it hurts a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marcus. And Ms. Cleare, you are the last person to answer the question. You are on mute. You're muted.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I would say a lot of the above that was already mentioned. Definitely there has to be some form of relief, but we have to continue to fight. I'm a part of the movement for rent relief. We're going to fight. We have some actions coming up to extend the moratorium. If the tenants don't have the money, they can't pay the rent. And it's really, it comes down to that we have to first make sure that tenants can pay the rent. And definitely, as a temporary fix, we need to look at some tax forgiveness and tax relief on property owners so that no one loses their property or suffers a burden as well, because we know those are our neighbors. I don't think we want to see that happen, and we just want to make sure when the money comes, it comes to the right people that need it in our communities, our small homeowners. Make sure that they get it first, and not bigger entities, as was the case in some of the earlier COVID allocations. The federal government does have to step up. The state has to step up. And as a city council person, I would definitely advocate for relief for our small property owners to make sure that they don't lose their property and there's no threat around that. And make sure that renters can pay their rent.
Okay. Okay. So I was just informed by the committee that given that we were supposed to start at 11:15 and we started a little bit earlier, that Mr. Rosser missed the icebreaker question. So we are going to allow him to answer the icebreaker question. Is that all right, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. So this is the question for you.
They said, ask him them questions.
Well, now you really don't have a choice on this one.
They said, ask him.
Yeah, they said that. So when you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Okay, all right. Honestly, when I was a child, my first dream profession was to be an architect.
It's only a quick answer. Quick answer.
Yeah, okay. Architect.
Okay, quick answer. Okay.
All
right.
My campaign manager's on. He tells me to cut everything I say by 70%. So you like him.
Okay. So. All right. So we are closing this segment.